Didn't catch that. I will say, if you haven't noticed, there's green lights in the ceilings. All of those are microphones, which is nice because when you ask questions, it will be recorded in the recording for you to watch later, as well as for our online participants. But be aware of your side conversations and be aware of, like, if you're opening some granola bars and things, sometimes those can be magnified. So just be aware. I think you'll be okay. You're far enough away. Okay, so yeah, so we have a lot of applicants, and we're just thankful for all that you guys do to provide seats to these kids that need it so badly and to benefit them, because we all know that early childhood education has great longitudinal outcomes. So thanks for changing lives. So we'll move on. So the grant purpose is the expanded student access grant increases eligible student access to existing high-quality early education programs that support a child's development of cognitive, physical, language, social, and emotional skills. High-quality preschool programs have been shown to be effective in preparing young children for kindergarten. That shouldn't be anything new. So thank you for fulfilling that purpose. And then our objective is the program supports providers in expanding eligible student enrollment to increase school readiness, improve academic performance, and reduce remediation costs associated with poor academic outcomes. By increasing the number of eligible students in high-quality preschool programs, proficiency will increase in numeracy, literacy, and lifelong learning practices from preschool to kindergarten entrance, and collect student outcome data. Through the collection and analysis of preschool entry and exit profile assessment data, DWS and USBE will be able to demonstrate the impact of high-quality preschool programs. And I'll just slide in here as well. Something else that's super exciting is with the last piece of legislation, SB 166, the evaluation was changed from being an outside evaluator. We've been working with ETI, they're based in California, and they've been doing our external evaluation. But with the PEEP and KEEP assessments, as well as with the issues that we've been having with SSIDs, we decided to bring that funding into the office, into USBE, so that we could really get a more thorough evaluation, because when you have a contract with a company and you want to look at something else, you have to change their scope of work. So we had decided to change it to 2 employees. And so John is one of those. He's our one of our research consultants. And then we have Jimmy Hernandez upstairs, who is a research consultant as well. And he's focusing more on Upstart. But they both will be working on preschool data. And so I've told both of them ever since they joined our group how excited I am to have these 2 guys behind me and Jamie to help us get the numbers we need to advocate for funding. So like I said, like, we have some really exciting things in the work. Just hold on there with us and we'll get there. So now we're going to go over the contract. I'll turn the time over to Taylor and she'll review that with us.
I don't want to stand. Okay. Can I stand?
Yeah.
I feel like I'll just be more comfortable. All right, so hopefully, I'm not sure if all of you guys have received contracts with us before, but if you haven't, I'm just going to do a brief overview of kind of what the contract will look like, so you know kind of what to look for and where to sign, what have you. I know they're hoping to get the contracts out to everyone in the next couple of weeks, so just keep your eye out for it. When you get the contract, the subject line in the email will say, like, for your signature. That's how you know, and it'll be like in all caps. So that's how you know the contract's ready for you. But this is what you'll want to review. You'll have your contract number here at the top, just your organization's information, the dates, the period of performance, the contract period, the dates of it, how much funding you're going to be receiving, and then it'll have a list of attachments. The ratification statement, because this contract is going back to July 1st, this is just a statement saying that you guys can be reimbursed for costs going back to that date. And then it'll have your contact information, and then this is where you would sign it right here on this signature line, and then send it back to us, and we would send it up to our executive director's office. Once they sign it, we'll send it back to you and for a copy of the executed contract. So, is there any questions on the formality of the contract?
Okay, just to go over some performance requirements. I know that a lot of you have either been on expansion of seats grant for the past year or 2 or 3, and some of you are transitioning into this grant from the high quality school readiness grant. So many of you already kind of understand like what the performance requirements are, especially those of you that have read through the bill and have been on these grants. But just as a kind of recap, as a reminder, performance requirements define the obligations of the grantee with respect to the agreement. So they include assigning statewide student identifiers, so SSID numbers, and so we're going to be talking a little bit more about the SSID numbers as we move on along with these with this presentation. But a lot of you are with local education agencies, so I know that most of you already populate your own SSID numbers. So with private providers, we will be kind of walking you through that and helping you to get that information over to the person that needs to receive that information. So, and then we have the PEEP assessment and reporting. So have all of you already taken the PEEP entry this summer? Okay, great. I know that there's a link to the training that we have, and that's also going to be on a slide. So if anybody of you need reminders or have new teachers that you want to send us along to, we do have a link for that and the timestamp where you would start the training for that. Then we would like you to do the pre-mid and post assessments. These pre-mid and post assessments obviously are ongoing within your program. That's part of quality. We are not going to require you to send us pre-mid and post for the expansion of seats grant, just because we expect that you're doing that, and that's something that we will be asking you in the beginning and end of year report, and also when we come in to look for your portfolios. So those of you that have been on the High Quality School Readiness Grant, that's something that's required because we want to prep providers to get ready to be working on those things and really focusing on lesson planning and analysis of and using your analysis for lesson planning from your pre-mid and post data. So we also want you to prioritize enrollment for eligible students. All of you have received the eligibility form, which have you would mark on there, and then you would have the parent fill out the risk factors. And then you have up in that top sheet, and I'll have a picture of it later, it's for office use only, and so you are keeping those files on site in a locked cabinet. That doesn't ever come to Utah State Board of Education or to the Department of Workforce Services. And then obviously maintaining elements of high quality. We're going to be doing the ECAS 3 observations, which Jessica's going to be talking a little bit about later on. And so all of you have had your ECAS 3, that's why you're here in the room. You've scored high enough to be able to be in the room. And so your next ECAS 3 would be, mid-year to end of year, especially for those of you that are wanting to reapply. So this year we had a special vote from the board that we could actually reach back 15 months, so that we didn't have to have this huge influx of ECAS 3s, because as you know, they take 3 hours, and then we have to do all of the documenting and the debriefing with all of that. So but moving forward, we will be doing ECAS 3 at the end of the school year so that you can apply, or mid-year, so you can apply for the next school year. And then classroom portfolios. Is everyone kind of aware of what classroom portfolios are? Or, so we'll talk about that a little bit more, but that's basically, we come mid-year to you and we ask you to put a portfolio together for each classroom. If you have a lot of classrooms, we will talk about it. So we know that some of you have many classrooms, so that's a big task. So we'll talk through that with you. And but really those portfolios are to demonstrate elements of quality that are listed within the bill, Senate Bill 166 bill. We don't collect them, so we actually go to your site. Yeah.
Just timeline is what I'm
Yeah,
curious about.
yeah, exactly, mid-year. So we're thinking, well, mid-year for us is like January, February. So yeah.
So what kind of things do you want included in those portfolios?
So so in the bill, we have those elements of high quality. So things that have been added this school year are the kindergarten transition plan. We've got family engagement. We've got intentional and differentiated instruction in small group, whole group, and free play. And then so all of these elements of quality, we want you to be demonstrating what you're doing in those areas. So really, we'll be looking through your lesson plan. So we would like 4 weeks of lesson planning just to show us what, and if you don't do 4 weeks ahead of, some of you I know don't do 4 weeks ahead of time, so we can talk through that too. So it's really something that you might ask kind of your teachers or your coach to help your teachers to put together, because it's a nice way to help your teachers to understand what this bill is about. I've been into quite a few classrooms where teachers don't even know that they're even on the grant. And so it's helpful for the teachers to understand what high quality is and what the state is defining as high quality, and to help you to be able to talk to the teachers about those elements of quality and to be collecting those artifacts. Yeah.
Sorry, Emma, I'm gonna go back to the Edgar's observation for the minute end. So if we want to apply for next year, do we make the appointment with you, or will you automatically come to us and do the observations?
Since you're on the grant, you would make an appointment with me, and I could come out and do an ECAS 3 observation. So since you're on the grant, we'll be having conversations of whether you plan on renewing, and we would come out to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Questions?
The application kind of asked for similar things to what you're saying in the portfolio that you're going to ask us to compile. Is there any way we could get a copy of our rubric, our scored rubrics for that application, so that we could see kind of how we performed in relation to?
You would have to, we can tell you what the overall score was, but in order to get the actual documentation, you would have to submit a grammar request. But you could do that.
What she's talking about though, like with the portfolios, you kind of want a template, right? Of what should be included in the portfolio.
I'm just asking for feedback on, like a lot of those elements were included in the application, and we had to explain how we were meeting those elements. So I'm just curious how we scored in relation to those elements on our application.
Yeah, so just like Taylor said, you can get an overall score, or if you want a more detailed report, then you could do a grammar request through the Department of Workforce Services.
What's the acronym?
So
I'll get the email. Yeah, GRAMA, grammar.
Never heard of it either before we started working
Oh,
with
it's
you
like
guys.
governmental records management.
So because it's a government agency, you have access to the records, but you have to submit the grandma request. So then
It's an act that governs like protecting data, and so it goes to our legal department, they review your request, and then if it's appropriate, they'll send you the information. But I can have Emma send that out with the orientation packet.
yeah.
Question for all of us.
Request.
We all want it.
yes.
Sorry.
I would actually jump.
Okay. And then obviously reporting, so enrollment, it says here quarterly reports, but you really only have a beginning of year and end of year report, and then they'll be kind of like that mid-year report in the portfolios, but really that's just you showing me your portfolios, me and Jessica, and we can work with you to see if there's like anything that needs to work on those things. The way that we'd like to have those portfolios.
With the portfolio, can we get a template of what you're expecting then?
Yeah, I'll send you a template. That will be in the orientation package. And for those portfolios, just go down the list, and if you could create a table of contents and create tabs or page numbers of where you can find that section, it's easier for us and it makes it flow a lot faster. We've got some providers over here that do an amazing job with that. So Centra de la Famille, sorry, I'm gonna do a shout out. Centra do an amazing job. So if you have any questions as well, they have theirs very organized. So when Jessica and I come in, we'll be asking you about different things, and we'll go down the list, and you can just find the page number or the tab really quickly, and we can make it go faster because you're all very busy. So And then, you know, we've got that end of year report and then expected outcomes.
So I didn't catch what the reports were, just enrollment?
So really, it's mostly like with your invoices, you'll be giving us your enrollment for your eligible kids.
We'll be doing that monthly, correct?
You're gonna be doing that monthly, yes.
So are these reports different than that?
Yes, you're gonna have a beginning of year report and end of year report, and really it's just a report on, you know, how many kids you have, how many classrooms you have, all of the things kind of that you're, not all of the things, but certain things that you've been asked to, you know, in your application, but then also there'll be more in-depth questions about how the program's doing, and, you know, I don't have the exact questions right here, but those will be sent out within a good amount of time, so you can fill those out before they're due. And I have the due dates later on in the slide.
Will it be more than 2 weeks that we get to fill it out?
Yes. Okay, good. More than 2 weeks. And hopefully for the application next school year, it'll be more too.
That would be
We're gonna-
fantastic.
Yeah, I will say, so the legislation should not be changing. We're just asking for more money. So the application should be out sooner because we're not depending on legislation to then follow
So
all of that.
we will be revising those in December and getting them out. Yeah, we
It'll
don't
be
want.
so much better, guys.
All right, so for SSID numbers, I think we have John chatting about this.
So I'm just going to briefly talk about getting an SSID, requesting one. So if you are in an LEA, so a public or a district or a charter school, you probably have your own access and don't need to worry about this segment. But if you have any questions, my email is on the slide. So definitely, if you're in that situation, feel free to reach out. If you're a private provider and you need SSIDs for your students, these are the steps you'll need to take. So the first step is just to send me an email letting me know that you're going to need that set up. In that first email, just let me know that, you know, it can be a pretty brief one, but do not include any student information in that email. It's not secure. I don't want it. Don't send it. So don't include any student information in the first email. It's just letting me know that you're going to need it. And then I will reply with a link to a site we use called MoveIt. I don't know if anyone's used that site with us before, probably, if you've been doing this. But it's just a kind of like Dropbox where we can upload files and then you can download them. So I'll reply with a MoveIt link. That link, I'll also reply with instructions for using the site. That link, when you go in, it will set up a 30-day account for you with a temporary password, and your username will be whatever email you contacted me with. And then that will exist for 30 days, and then after that point, it'll shut down, and the next time you need to do something with us, you'll get a new temporary account that'll exist for 30 days. We have a bit more of this on the next slide, but for now, the Excel file will need to include, and I'll say this in my email, certain information, including, you know, student first, middle, and last name, date of birth, gender, and then the last three items, parent one first name, parent two first name, and birth certificate number. We started asking for, because we're getting a lot of duplicates. There's an issue where they're not, when you're going into kindergarten, they're not expecting your students to have SSIDs because they haven't previously. And they say, okay, we'll make a SSID for you. And then, you know, then Tommy has 3 SSID numbers by the time, you know, in first grade. So, so we're trying to reduce that. And so that's what that information is for. So you'll reply with just an Excel sheet with those fields in it for your students. And then I'll reply with a final link with another spreadsheet you can download with all of their SSIDs in it. So that's the basic back and forth. There's a little bit there. But are there any, yeah.
I know for us private childcare providers, before you had us collect the actual birth certificate so that the name matched, are we still doing the same thing?
Yes.
Or are we just making sure that the name matches instead of collecting the whole document?
So as far as I'm not sure what the requirements for that were and why you were told to do that. I just need this information, so I'm not aware if that having changed, if that was part of your documentation.
I think in the past, they just wanted to make sure that you guys are looking at it and typing it in correctly, rather than just taking like parent report and having a misspelling or, you know, especially when they have like 4 or 5 names, not getting all of those. So as long as you're like looking at it, I don't think it would be a bad idea. I know the LEAs keep them in their files for the students. So I don't think it's a bad idea to have it on file, but we want you at least looking at it before you're registering.
Right, that's the important part. Yeah.
My question, so a lot of our children, the problem we've had was middle names.
Okay.
And so sometimes our children, they come in our programs and they don't have a designated middle name. Are there, it's a unique situation, but what do we do when we don't have a middle name? Because sometimes it's like the construction of the name would be the father's or the mother's middle name would be, and sometimes it's not on the birth certificate that way, it's an informal, but I just want to make sure.
Right, and we do, I know we have a policy on that. If you want to shoot me an email with that question, I'll look it up and send it out to you, and if that's, and we can include that in the information we're sending out. Is that a common issue that we want to include that? Okay, then I'll look it up and we'll include it with information when we send it out.
And then in the past, so for getting the birth certificate number, now is that including both US and foreign birth certificates or just a US certificate only?
I would think just US. I would, again, it's largely for the matching. So, if we have someone with the same number, but yeah, I mean, I'd say kind of work with what you have, but largely I think just US we were looking for.
Right. The main goal is to reduce duplicates, correct?
Right.
Right. Pretty unique key that does not allow that. Okay.
Exactly, yeah. Anything else on that? Okay.
So again, real quick, LEAs, you can create your own SSIDs, so you won't be submitting this to John, so only the privates will. Something that I just wanted to emphasize, the next slide. For testing and data analysis, we really need a larger sample size for the private sector. There's not enough kids being tested, so we need all of your kids, regardless of funding, that are in that high quality program, receiving that high quality treatment, to have an SSID and to be given the PEEP assessment. It's not just for the kids that are the eligible students. So you'll be completing this list and getting SSIDs for all of your kids so that we can get a bigger sample size and really measure what you guys are doing. Because right now it's really difficult to do that. And I think LEAs, you're giving SSIDs to all your kids regardless of how they're coming in. So that's not an issue, but again, you'll be giving everyone that's in that high quality classroom the assessment to get that measure.
Sorry, is it just the classroom or the whole program?
If you're funding the whole, are eligible students going through all the classrooms? Just one, then just that classroom for now.
If we're okay with it, it's something we'd have to approve with our family partnership director.
Yeah.
But if they're okay with it, our families are comfortable with it,
We would
do you want us to also screen all of our other?
If you feel like they're all roles, Emma's been the one that's been seeing your guys' program, but if you guys feel like it's the high quality is maintained throughout,
We don't change
then
services, so
I think that would
then
be a
you
good
can have
idea.
more data.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not opposed to that?
What about our 3-year-olds preschool program?
No, because they're not
Just-
getting,
you're
they don't
just
get
doing
the
the
PEEP
four
assessment.
schools.
No, the PEEP assessment is only for those kids that are foregoing on 5 and going to kindergarten the next year.
The last one regarding this. What would be the possibility to allow private sector to have ability to enter SSIDs? Is that something that's not considered or?
Certain system to do it, and the system is expensive, which is why.
No thanks. We'll email you.
That's okay. Thanks, Jonathan.
I think it's been I think it's been discussed, but I think that's where the system really lies, is like districts have like their school systems that can automatically do it, that talk to the state, whereas private providers don't have that ability. So that's why it goes through John. And then just one more quick thing about the student data, please, like be very, very careful when you're sending an email. Like I know we get in a rush sometime through the year, but if you send us like 700 names of kids and their birth dates, like that is such a risk to those students. Education is like the #1 target for criminals because they have 18 years to use that social security number before someone's gonna notice. So just keep that in mind. If you ever accidentally send it, you have to delete it you tell the person that you send it to, to delete it from their inbox and then delete it from their trash so that it's not being stored anywhere in the email account. And then you would do the same. You would delete it from your send box and delete it from your trash. So do everything you can to get rid of it, because I've done it once where I went to grab a different file and I thought that's the file I was grabbing, and then they came back and was like, this doesn't make any sense. And I said, crap, I sent student data. So just be very, very careful with that and use the Move It file.
My other question was just on PEEP. It seems like in the past, we didn't test the special ed kids as part of that. It was just the typical kids. Is it everyone now that's in the class?
If you have like an inclusive classroom, then I would say everybody. If you have classrooms that are separated, so you have like only special ed classrooms, right now the answer is no. I'm going to double check with our assessment team because of like having audited students and providing that assessment. With us, it's similar to the PEEP, but it's also different in that like every kindergartner gets to keep and only grant participants get. So it's like mandated for grant participants. So anyway, I just needed to verify on that. But if they're in your classrooms, in your high quality classrooms that you're considering part of the grant, then yes.
Okay. Yes. So just to give you guys a heads up, like I'm also doing this remotely, so I'm answering questions as they're coming up on my computer. So Leanne Parkinson also just wanted to let us know that the middle name has been a common error issue. So Joan, thank you for adding that to that. So as far as the performance requirements, the biggest thing that I wanted to, we're actually on the wrong page, so let me turn it back over. So now we're going into more detail about the PEEP, right? We just talked about how it is for 4-year-olds. We answered the question about please do it throughout the programs if at all possible. But this just gives you some more information. I know that a lot of you have said you've already had the training. Just be aware when the testing dates are. You've got that window of 4 weeks before school starts or the program starts and 4 weeks after. And then the exit exam will be given 4 weeks prior to the end of your program ending. The data entry part of it, Liz has been working really efficiently, and it consumed a lot of her life, but she's been working with our IT department, and it's because it's a new system to try to get it to private and LEAs and try to make the program work, but they have been working really, really hard to make that happen. So Liz sent out an email yesterday talking specifically about how to enter the data, how to get on the data gateway. Yeah, and how to roster students. And so here's also the training link and it will be on our website. But this is the link that was for the PEEP testing, the PEEP training, yes. And so know that if you get to just the data part that you need to look at, there's the timestamp at 1 hour, 41 minutes if it's just the data part you need to know. Okay. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about that. And something, so I was holding on for just a second. What to say?
So because it's like a brand new computer system, and we all love technology, but things can go awry, I would strongly suggest, if I could mandate it, I would, but I would just say, please, please, please score paper pencil and keep a record of that. Especially as things are, if we run into little things here and there, you might not be able to like enter the data on the dates that we're intending right now if we come into the problem, but you can have tested the kids in the window, and then when it opens up, we'll be able to input that data, as well as if it crashes or anything like that. And also, I just think it's best practice for teachers to have the copies of that assessment in their classroom to look at for a good resource. So maybe in a few years down the road, when it's working smooth and we know how it works, you could score live with an iPad and not need paper pencil and just mark the students that way. I would really discourage you from doing that this year because we want to make sure that it's working correctly. Today we'll provide you with the TAM, or the Teacher's Administration Manual, as well as the student materials. I think we can get you guys what your IDEL number was, so we'll double check on that. Brian's working back there on it. But then if you want any additional ones, you can just go to the assessment site and feel free to print them and make your own copies. We will not be providing score sheets or the parent questionnaire. That's your responsibility to print. There is a PDF document that's just those, so we can send that out, but you also can just pull up the test and go to the last couple pages of the document and print those. So keep those on file, and again, please score paper pencil so that we don't lose anything. And then the rostering bit will be a little bit laborsome this year. I think we talked about that in the PEEP training. It's really unfortunate, but I know that all of you are extremely passionate about early childhood and preschool. And if it means we can get data one year earlier, then I think you guys can all and are all willing to sacrifice that. So put on a movie and then type away. We love you for it. We're hoping that next year for sure, like we're hoping that we can pull from the school systems. We'll see how the private sector works. We all are still working on that. So thanks for your patience and for your to do the hard lift this year.
Remember, you're doing foundational skills.
Building.
And
You guys are awesome.
you're amazing is what you are. So just know that we appreciate it. So this just is a graph, it's a sample graph that was part of the application for some, but this is just the pre, mid, and post data. And it's just a matter of reminding you to make sure you're looking at your assessments, see where the kids are at, see what needs to be more strongly in some of your lessons to help you do some of your differentiated instruction. And so that's just kind of a sample graph on that.
Sorry, one more little tidbit of knowledge. As I've been talking to some programs, they're like, oh, can we use the PEEP for our pre, mid, and post? The answer is no. One, there's not a mid, and two, it's not near enough information that you need to educate, to drive a child's education. The skills on the PEEP, I think we covered this in the PEEP training, but those are the like 14 indicators of later success. On a way to really measure the program. It gives you great info about the student, but is not sufficient for what you need for a kid. So we at the state, as we were developing it, we really didn't like the idea of adding another test to our little friends. But in order to really meet their needs, we have to get data somehow. So that's why we intended it to be pretty short. It's like 10 to 15 minutes. So there's that, but do not keep doing your pre, mid, and post that's in your curriculum.
And your pre, mid, and post, I mean, if you look at the bill, your pre, mid, and post should be meeting those skills that you find in the Utah Early Childhood Core Standards. So, you know, just always be, obviously all of you know whether your curriculums are meeting those skills, but if they're not, then, you know, you would obviously have some supplementary curriculums to meet all of those skills that are listed within those Utah Core Standards. So.
So as part of this, the performance requirements, you want to make sure that you're prioritizing your eligible students. And this is the eligibility form that was included in your application. I'm sure you guys are a little bit familiar with it. That office use section is for you. These forms do not need to come back into us. We don't want them, honestly. We want you to keep them in a very secured file in your location, but it will be probably part of the monitoring when we come out to say, where's your eligibility forms? And at that point, like, we might want to know how many students you have in each of the categories. How many kids do you have that are meeting the two, you like have 2 to 4 eligibility?
It's on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, so it's on the spreadsheet type thing. So I just wanted to remind you that this is the eligibility forms, and please to prioritize your students based on needs.
You're sending us a spreadsheet where we'll document that, or we should create our own?
Yeah, so there, it was on John's slide. So I didn't type all the math right. So the privates will for sure need to fill out all of it because we're doing the SSIDs. For the publics, I don't want you to do extra work if it's not necessary. So if you have a report from your system that will print the majority of that information, then you can send that and then only fill out the columns that like aren't covered in that. But the last 4 columns on the spreadsheet is the child eligible as economically disadvantaged and have a risk factor, eligible because they're an English learner, eligible because of both, they're often English learner and economically disadvantaged with a risk factor, or are they not eligible, which will mostly just be used for the LE and the credits as you fill out all of your kids. So I want to relieve as much work as I can. If there's a way that you can like copy your school system in there. When you see the spreadsheet, if you have questions, just let us know. But yeah.
Where do we find the spreadsheet?
But it'll be sent out to you. So
I'll send it in the orientation package.
So how we said we've been trying to we've been just getting things out as fast as we can. So we're having this meeting, but we're still we need to, because we're not collaborating by law in the legislation, we both need to meet and just agree on the orientation packet. It's not a whole bunch of creating. We just need to have a meeting. So that will be happening and then that will be following.
Okay, great, thanks.
As fast as we can. So another part of maintaining your high quality, you guys have worked really hard to get your programs to high quality. But part of that maintaining high quality is making sure you're using an evidence-based curriculum. That they're actually looking at the intentional and differentiated instruction in your whole group, small groups, and for the child themselves. There's the explicit instruction in literacy and numeracy as determined by the State Board of Education. So the slide that is currently after that Emma's already on is, now those are the specific links in literacy and numeracy. Off of research like the reading panel, all of those things that say like if they have these in literacy, they directly link to student outcomes, like later outcomes in education. And we've done the same with numeracy. And so the State Board of Education has come up with these 6 for literacy, these 5 for numeracy, and they are part of the legislation. By far, we are not saying only teach these things, okay? There's a lot more that goes on. But these are the ones, this just kind of gives you a foundational. If you make sure that these are being taught, you know, like pretty hard in your programs, hopefully you will see what we have seen and you will see the outcomes as we go. And then the other part of this is to try to make sure that we're doing the monitoring and the ongoing professional learning and coaching within your departments or your programs. And then there's the ongoing assessment of a student's educational growth, the pre, mid, and post, which we've already talked about. Administration of the PEEP. And again, there are your dates. Does anybody have any questions about those? And then it's also part of the legislation that you don't really, I don't know how to put the ratio part. We want you to try to keep it at a 1 to 10 ratio.
No, this is expansion, so they're required to.
Yeah, so it is expansion. So we would like you to keep it at 20 students and a 1 to 10 ratio. Okay. And that's part of maintaining high quality. And then the ongoing program evaluation and data collection and family engagement. If any of you need some ideas on family engagement, we have some districts that are doing really well in that. But another part of your portfolio would be a matter of taking a copy of your family engagement that you send out to your parents and just put it in your portfolio. This is what we've done. And then maybe take a picture of, this is how it works. This is what the kids are doing. That looks really great in the portfolio. And it's also fun for you to celebrate what you're doing for your programs for your students. Yes.
Can the portfolio be electronic or do you need a paper hands-on tabs?
Yeah. When we send out when we figure out exactly what that looks like, all the details, we'll let you know for sure, but I don't see that being a problem.
Save some paper, you know.
Right.
We've killed a lot of trees with H2S already, so maybe we should start like covering that up and recouping the forest.
Thanks, Sarah. And then just the teacher's education, make sure like when you're in the LEAs, they're required to have a CDA, the teachers, and then private providers, they have a year to get that CDA certification. And then as part of your portfolios, like we've already talked about, is a kindergarten transition plan. We also will be letting you know, like here are some things that you could include in that kindergarten transition, but we're also open to ideas. If any of you have had successful kindergarten transition meetings or have had them, because I come from a background where I worked in a district and it was also special ed at the time, but there were things that went really, really well in that district for transition meetings to kindergarten. Part of this though is going to be, please let the parents know when they go to register their child for kindergarten that their child has an SSID number. And this is what it is. And if you that are running the programs, right, you can actually call different secretaries and say, I have some students that will be coming to you that will already have an SSID number. So when you're registering students, please ask them if they've attended a preschool and if they have an SSID number. It's a matter of training everyone, because usually when kids go into, they've come from a preschool program, preschool across the state, as we know, varies, right? And so a lot of times they're like, oh, it's the neighborhood preschool, so we don't even need to worry about it. But actually they've been participating in a program that the student already has an SSID that's not being translated or shared with the secretaries. And so they end up duplicating SSID numbers. So that will be part of your kindergarten transition plan, but also letting them know like what really motivates this child and what is this child really doing well on. And maybe here's some areas of weakness or I've noticed the student struggles with. Something that would be nice, and it's just kind of like it doesn't need to be a report card, but just like a little snippet, and it could be like one of the end of the year things that you hand them, and it would be great if the parent can take that with them with the SSID numbers and say, get to know my child. How beautiful they are, what they can do.
So a question on that, when the SSID is created, part of the transition plan would be, did the parents get notified that there's an SSID?
They haven't, and that's what we're asking you to do.
So how do we get them?
So what happens is you'll send, so you'll send the list to John, and then John will send you the SSIDs back to another Move It link. So then you'll open the document and have the
That's
whole
different
roster.
from the HSQ, because we didn't get.
You never got it back, yeah, so you will be getting them back.
We have
but
to
you need
enter
it for the peak.
Yeah, we have to use
Yeah.
those and to enter them in the PEEP.
Here's the fine thing, and I will just say SSIDs cannot be sent, like even if you just send an SSID by itself in an email, that's private information, it needs to be sent securely, even though it's not tied to anything, it can't be sent.
So if we have a transition card or a card that we can have, sometimes we print information on, like an ID badge type card that has a printer, can we put it on that and give it to the parent? No, how do we give it to the parent on a
So
secure
in my mind, I think you're gonna have to write it down somewhere for the parent. I maybe wouldn't put it on something that like it's laminated and they're gonna keep forever. I don't know. It's up to you guys really, because like the reason this is on here is one, we know it's important because even our reg ed kids, like if they're doing okay in preschool, but we've learned a couple things that were like, this would be so nice if the kindergarten teacher can pick up here and move forward, rather than the kindergarten teacher like not being aware, the child getting further delayed and then having to be in special education because we're like a little bit of a tip here or there could have prevented that. So we want that communication. We're not entirely sure on like what that's gonna look like and what we're gonna require. So this year it's just, we're requiring a kindergarten transition plan. You get to decide as a program how you do that, but as part of that, in some way, the SSID is created or is communicated to the parents so that it exists.
So at this point, the ideal would be to write it on the transition plan somewhere where the parent.
Yeah,
knows where it's
and
at.
then just make the note, and like Jamie was saying, for, you know, all of Utah's history minus the last like 5-6 years, there haven't been preschoolers coming with SSIDs. So all these secretaries that have been in their job for a long time, that's not part of their routine. So you really need to bring it to their attention. So you guys should not be calling secretaries and being like, here's Johnny's coming in, here's his SSID. That's not your job. Your job is to say, kids from my program will be coming to your school. Please look for an SSID for them before. It's the parent's job, I think, to have that one-on-one SSID number that they can go and say, this is the number. And they probably, I think my understanding of the SSID system, they might not even have to put in the number, they just need to like search for it, and if they put in the name and stuff, it'll pop up. But if they're having problems finding it because of all the fun name issues, then that's where the number would come in handy.
Other thing, like I know having my own students or my own children that are in school programs, that's how they use to get, I can go in and pull up my kids' transcripts. I can pull up everything based off their SSID.
The SSID follows them till college.
So,
Just an idea, this is something that we did this year with kindergarten transition, we had SSID numbers, is throughout the year, we created a relationship with the school. So I would go in every 1 or 2 months and, bring donuts to the secretary, say, hey, here's some free flyers. If you ever need us or any services, here it is. And towards the end of the year, we went in and we actually took them drinks and we let them know, don't forget, some of our kids have SSID numbers. But by that time, they already knew who our kids were. So I got a few calls not too long ago saying, hey, I've got so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so that need SSID numbers. So then I could go to the parent and then say, here's the SSID, don't forget to. So just an idea, throughout the year, you create that relationship with the LEAs, they'll work with you.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because there is such a huge, I think there's a big gap between the private sector and the LEA sector, and that needs to close.
Right.
And that communication and those relationships need to be fostered and.
And I think it's just a matter of the private sector just not giving up with the LEAs. So as long as we don't give up with the LEAs, where that relationship will be created.
Yeah, and it's been happening with LAs too, like they're just not used to searching and they're like, here
Right.
comes a kindergartner and I create the new one. I will just say as well that like we're working from USBE side, like we're gonna try and bring training to the secretaries as well. But if we're both coming at it, then hopefully they'll start looking for them. So please just do what you can to let them know.
And we're hoping, I think, that so this year to do a kindergarten transition summit. I would assume that would be mid-year, so January, February, March time, where we're doing some kind of training on that. And then to have you come and to get your suggestions too is always a great tool for everyone.
So I have a question back on the ratio. So we do full day preschool with extended hours. Do we need to keep that 1 to 10 for the extended hours as well, or is it just preschool?
I think the for your extended hours, I mean, ultimately, no, because really the grant is for your time that your kids are in preschool, which can be from, I assume, like 9:15 in the morning, that's your full day, all the way through to 3:15, maybe 4 o'clock. But your extended hours would be, you know, your before and after school program. So really that's what the grant is covering. Ultimately, you know, I know that the YMCA really focuses on safety and makes sure that your ratios are, you know, at a good level where the kids are safe and feeling engaged. And so but for that time period where they're actually within the preschool program, it does need to be a 1 to 10. But your extended hours, that goes beyond, before and beyond, you know, that conversation up to 3 or 4 o'clock.
Okay. Okay, so the next slide is the ECRS 3 observations. So we'll be doing unannounced early child, the ECRS observations. Again, the scores that you guys are aware of this. For LEAs, it's a score of 3 that's required. For private providers, there's an overall score of 3.67, as well as the subscales of literacy and numeracy and teacher and student interactions need to be a 4. So if you're wondering why are the privates required a little bit more than the LEAs, it's because you guys usually have them for more time, which means you're more capable of getting higher scores. So we're requiring a little bit more of you. Observations can occur up to twice per year and may require program specialists to visit more classrooms depending on the size of the provider. Debrief should occur within 2 weeks of the observation. A detailed report will be sent to the grant administrator, and the teacher does not need to attend the ECRS 3 debrief. So they can attend if you want them to, but sometimes it's better coming cushion from you than a state person. So if you want to debrief with us, and then you and the coach can go to the teacher. So we're considering, so in the legislation, it just refers to it as an observational tool. It doesn't refer to it as the ECRS. We've ran into a problem with the LEAs because they're so large and because the ECRS takes 3 hours, that we can't see all of the classrooms in a high quality program. So I've gone to Jordan, I'll see 2 classrooms of their, how many classrooms do you have?
27.
27 classrooms, and we'll deem them high quality. That doesn't sit well with us, it never has, but we've done what we could. So the School Readiness Board has organized a subcommittee. John will be running it. And what we're going to be doing this fall, you might see us a little bit more often, is we're going to be going into classrooms with an ECRS observer and then someone that's observing with the class tool. And we're going to do some correlation data. The class is done, takes significantly less time. And so we could see more LEA classrooms. Again, we're talking about we need data to prove to the legislature that it works. And in order for us to feel good about putting a high quality stamp on a student, we need to see more classrooms. So more information of that will follow. I'm not sure yet either if like we go and do one that's like for this subcommittee and we're not really there to score you, we're just trying to correlate the 2 tools. But if you get a good score, then we possibly could use that when it comes time for application. We haven't talked that through yet, but I think that would be fine. And I'm not sure if the School Readiness Board would want us to just, because I would like to get to the point of accurate data as soon as possible. So if like we end up doing class in the spring rather than the ECRS, we'll just let you know it's still up in the air. But just know, and I don't want, by saying that, it's not that we don't value the ECRS. The ECRS tells you things, the class does not, and vice versa. So even in the classrooms that if we end up going with class and observing, I would still very much encourage your teachers to have ECRS books in the classrooms and to be like doing that self-reflection all the time, because you do see things that you don't see other ways. And also just like as that happens, I wouldn't mention it to your programs yet until we know what we're doing. But when that time comes, because I know people are like, oh, something else, something new, emphasizing the need to get accurate data to prove the case for preschool and eventually get them smaller class sizes might be a good talking point. So that's just in the works. So as we get more information on that, we'll let you know. I think that's everything for the
And again,
others.
that's just for the LEAs.
Yeah.
So.
Right now, you
Right
never know,
now.
like depending on like
You
what we
never know.
find, but like we plan. Yes. Yeah.
So you mentioned something about making appointments with you, but then this one says unannounced. So will we know, do we not know?
I think we'll kind
Yes.
of, the way we've done it is like, we're coming this week,
Yes.
but you don't know which class we're coming to or when.
And sometimes that's really difficult, I know, for LEAs, especially because, you know, just for security reasons and for the principals needing to know, it's hard, it's difficult for private providers too. And so I think rather than, you know, we'd like to say, you know, we're coming within a week, span of a week, and then, you know, I think, you know, on the day, we can also at least, you know, potentially send an email just to let you know that we're gonna be in at your location. Just because ultimately, what we're finding is we're telling people that we're coming, and none of you are doing this, because you're all, you know, an expansion, right? But we have providers that prep, and we don't wanna see, we wanna see what you're doing, so that we can set, you know, reasonable goals with you. We really just want to know how your classrooms are running. And so it's really difficult when we have providers doing things that they wouldn't normally do in a classroom, and we have kind of directors coming in and coaching and being the lead teacher when they wouldn't normally be the teacher. And so we just want to be able to see what's happening in the classroom, not to catch anybody out, but just to set goals with you and to help you to kind of.
And again, we want that,
reach a higher
we want
threshold.
that quality maintained throughout the program, so it shouldn't matter where we're going or when we show up, because if you guys are doing a good job of monitoring your programs, all of the classrooms are quality. And if they're not, then they should be being tested, stamped with that high quality stamp on the testing.
But we also know sometimes, like, you know, some of, we have to know when your classrooms are running. Sometimes you may have like a day where you're not having class that day, or maybe you're having a party. We don't want to come to your class when you're having a party. We really don't. And so we want your kids well, yeah. We want your kids and you to have fun during those parties. So we gotta figure those things out too. So I mean, maybe we could do some type of a day where they are like a blackout week or whatever,
Which
or
we did this
something
time
where
too, so
they
this,
can say, don't come on this
Yeah, you
week, or
can
don't
choose
come,
one, yeah.
yeah.
because we want to make sure we get an accurate observation. If we come in and they're doing something completely different and having a party, that's not gonna, not doing centers, like that's gonna kill your score, so we're not gonna do that to you.
Would that be the same if you come out to do the class correlation?
You're not part of this.
I teacher stress, but you have to
No.
kind of.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, especially for coming to the correlation, I imagine that that you'll have like an exact heads up, and we'll probably ask you what classrooms you want to come to.
I think
That
that's
might be the
fine.
one thing that might end up not counting to the score CV because you've had that prep. I'll let you know. You'll
I
have
think
some.
it's fine. I mean, one of the things that one of the reasons why as well that we do that is the Department of Workforce Services works with the private providers for the CCQS, the an early childhood grant that they're running right now. And for them to be able to use my observations, I have to also do an announce. So that's also another reason. But a lot of it is really to do with like, let's just come in how you run.
Starting these in September.
We'll let you know. John just got hired and like hasn't had like a lot of direction from the school readiness board yet. They meet again this month. But I went and did the class training in Portland. I still need to do the online stuff to be reliable. But as soon as that's ready, like then we're ready to go because we have NECers and we have a class, and so soon we'll give you more information for sure.
Sorry, I'm gonna flip back to one thing. So we have 3 centers, right, that are part of this. We also have 2 other centers that are in a different county. Can we also put in requests because it would be beneficial for both, for additional data and for us to transition to apply for SSIDs for those children as well that are not in the scope?
Possibly, planning on giving them the assessment as well then?
That's why
Yeah.
it would be for the assessment. So they're all preschool, so we have 128 preschool children.
I think you said that that would be okay for another school district to include their classrooms, but that went on the grant.
Give you their class
So I
scores.
think
It's an issue.
Yeah, the only thing the thing this year is that only the grant participants have access to the data gateway. So like you could give them the PEEP, but I don't think there's gonna be a way for you to put their names in,
Oh, yeah.
like to submit their data, but it would be
Could
different.
Alberta, could she do that? She enter. We'll find out.
I just don't know if the data, I don't know if the data gateway is big enough to like just start taking other kids. I know that we want to build that capacity eventually, because it would be great to
Because we'd be
see.
willing to do the same.
Okay, I'll make a note and.
I mean, because it would be great for our, one is to help provide that to our
As far as providing data.
Yeah,
children. And
to
then,
adding a cut sample.
and then what about the report out? So we're talking, I heard that at the beginning, this was kind of in briefly in conjunction with the Pay It Forward.
Pay for success.
Pay for success, sorry, not pay it forward, pay for success. But, so, huh?
We only want you to pay for it.
We'll keep it forward. But, so if, for example, when it comes to whatever you're assessing the high quality and the students as they go through kindergarten through the periods that they go through, who's gonna be observing or collecting that data and analyzing the success, and who, does everybody have access to that view as well?
So we'll,
Mark and Ascenti.
yeah, so you guys won't be part of like paying back the investors. Pay for
No,
success
I understand.
ended.
Yeah.
So, right, but for Pay for Success, USU requests the data from USBE, and we provide them with, it's special ed avoidance data, so every year, however many kids participated in the preschool program that are not in special education, they get a certain amount of payback for that. We're paying them back for a couple more years here.
So Dr. Mark Innocenti collects that information, so he will send PhD students out to the classrooms and they administer the PPVT assessment to the students, and then pre and post, and then that information is analyzed and then sent to.
And then you continue as they the longitudinal roll. As far as like this data moving forward, I imagine you'll see it in like legislative or stuff as we're like bringing it, and there'll be, because we post the KEEP data online in a very like general format. I imagine the same will be happening for PEEP. As far as like what those reports and stuff look like, I haven't even seen them yet because we have no data yet. So, but
And we are creating actually a website for the school readiness initiative grants, and we don't actually have anything up right now, but we want to get like pictures with the names of the board members and also put the reports up there. And then I know that we do post the meetings that we have, the board meetings. But you know, once that's up and running, I can send that out to everybody so that you are updated and can see those reports and can be updated on like PPVT or Pay for Success information.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because a lot of, you know, like most people in private, we depend on other grants as well. And those grants are based on outcomes as well as community impact. So if we can show, if we have a platform that allows us to demonstrate outcomes beyond our program. I mean, I know it benefits us, but it's a two-way data street, but sometimes it's tough to get to that level of data, but I was just curious.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
okay, so the next slide are the classroom portfolios. Again, this is just like the very brief, like this is what we're anticipating will be in them, but you won't be just going off of this when you're creating the portfolio. There will be something more detailed that comes in the orientation packet. So don't be like, well, what does that mean? Because we'll tell you later. So we'll want to see implementation of your evidence-based curriculum. So saying what it is and how you're implementing it. At least 4 weeks of lesson plans, evidence of lesson plans for intentional and differentiated instruction, in large group, small group, and child-directed learning, evidence of explicit instruction in the areas of literacy and numeracy. So this was kind of mentioned, but you can do that in one of two ways. You can partner with Upstart, and it shouldn't be a cost to you is the way that we're thinking, because Upstart has a lot of funding. So those students can receive that funding to pay for the devices and things like that. So you can do it that way. Or if you're like, nope, we want to do it with our teachers are great, we got this covered, you can do that. But it's not just a matter of when we come to monitor that you guys are like, yeah, we're teaching it and check. It's a, how are you guaranteeing that that instruction is actually happening? We're going to want to see some like record of monitoring and coaching and all of that to ensure that it's really happening in the classrooms. Evidence of monitoring and ongoing professional development progress to inform instruction, evidence of your pre, mid, and post, and then evidence of the entry and exit training as well as administration. We'll also want to see evidence of program evaluation and data collection to monitor program goal achievement and implementation of the required program components. So again, going to that bigger level of the program, we're not just focusing on the classroom, how as a program can we improve? Go ahead.
Really quick, I just, in my head, so I know this classroom portfolio, is this like the CCQS portfolio, or is this different?
It's different.
Okay, so then we do have to create one for each.
Katya's done this before. She
Okay.
has one compiled already.
Okay,
I think we actually met, so she'll have one compiled. So there's a few things that have changed within the bill, like the kindergarten transition and numeracy and literacy. But I think if you ask Katya, she'll be able to show you an example, and hers was pretty organized
Okay.
too. So
Okay.
yeah.
How detailed do you want those lesson plans to be? Just kind of want the time and what they're doing?
I don't want it to
or-
be tied to standards. I think anybody should be able to walk into any high quality preschool classroom and the teacher should be able to grab the lesson plan and say, this is what we're teaching, this is what standard it focuses on, and this, that, like, it should always be tied to a standard. So I would keep gallery
Meaning that you want the standard number length or listed?
That would be
the
really
lesson plan
nice.
that you guys use, there's a spot for it. Like when I worked,
We told them that they don't have to do it anymore because that's just.
Is it tough? I mean, like, even if you're saying like MA, math, like, or it's attached to a skill.
The exact number of the core standard.
Okay.
That's just one more step.
No, I think if you just put the skill area. No? Oh, sorry.
this is totally just me, but in my classroom, it really wasn't that hard to do that at all. I had the lesson plan and it had a spot for it, and I would just type in what the standard was. And even if it was really loosely tied sometimes, like it was not, you could walk in my classroom at any moment and I could say, this is what we're doing and this is why, and this is where it is in the standard.
Just goes in every classroom.
You know what? You should.
Could you maybe give us a template, like your lesson plan template that you use?
Yes.
So we have, okay.
I'll talk to the person that made it in this room and see if that's okay. And I'll get back to you. But it was nice. It just had like the standard and then the skill and like what materials you needed and then what accommodations you were gonna make.
That is really nice.
Yeah,
The-
that's a huge thing I will say that I get really grumpy on when we come and do observations, is there's no like plan for individualized instruction. So there's just like, this is what we're doing and this is how we're doing it. Well, what if that kid can't use scissors? What's the plan then?
Yeah.
Like, even if it's a note of like prompting or modeling, or just a small little note of like the teacher thought of, not every kid can do this.
Well, and it's helpful, so like you said, if you have a teacher that's substituting, how is that substitute teacher? That substitute teacher may not have a background understanding of the kids in that classroom. So to be able to open up that lesson plan and know exactly what she or he.
There should,
Well, they would know the activity without their standard listed. They would be able to come in and instruct.
Yeah.
Just let us know what the expectation is so that we can pass
We'll keep
that on.
talking on that. Yeah. But I think the individualized part is huge because I think I mark down the majority of people when I come and do an observation because they just have what the activity is listed. They don't have like, this is how I'll phase it up and phase it down if that's what a kid needs. And or like Johnny, like sometimes like it's okay if we see like a kid's name and this is what you'll do for that kid too. Like one or the other, just some indication that when the teacher made the lesson plan, she realized like not all my kids are gonna be able to do this independently. So how am I gonna assist them in that? So through this again, so there will be examples of current family engagements, a list of teachers and their certification, enrollment of student-teacher ratio of preschool classrooms, and then kindergarten transition plans and ideas, and ECHRS 3 scores and reports. So again, when we meet and we get this like really nice and pretty and send it out. Just let us know if you have any questions or if something doesn't sit right with you. I'll be flat out honest. I had 5.5 years in the classroom. That's not a whole lot. I think I know quite a bit, but I also know I don't know everything, and that a lot of you, like the collective knowledge of you guys in this room is amazing. So again, like we're here driving the boat and trying to build preschool in the state, but you guys have a bunch of background knowledge. So if we're doing something wrong, like let us know. And if we can make changes, we will. We want to do this right, and you guys have all of that experience and knowledge that we so value. So as this keeps going, just let us know, and we'll change things as we can to benefit our UTAS students, because that's what we want.
And we're doing one per classroom. Our whole program, or just the ones that have?
If it's doable, I think that we can negotiate. So for my privates, I'm sorry, I want one per classroom. Sorry about that, but for LEAs, like I think that we need to talk about it, and we'll work with you individually. I know that, you know, we've got Granite School District back there that has how many classrooms? 80 classrooms. And somebody said over here, was it 27? Yeah. So we understand that that's a huge thing. So we can sit down with you individually and see what you think you do.
So yeah, we might just do the one per program. For LEAs, we might do like a program one and then like a pretty simplified classroom one or something. I don't think it's a bad idea either to like turn it over to the teachers and be like, you're creating this and this is what I want, and you guys require that from them. Again, up in the air still, we'll talk about it.
Because they don't have enough to do already.
Right, I know.
But the other thing, like, we'll talk about it. If you guys feel passionate about anything in particular about the portfolios, about the transition plan, email us. We'll bring that to the table. It's not like we're your legislatures or anything like that, right? But we want your feedback. We really do. We want to make this work for you. We want to make it work for your programs, and we really want it to work for the students.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
nope, not still me, it's you.
All right, so we are on document retention. So we really need you to retain the following documents on site for the possible review. So when it comes to, so we ask for you to retain these documents for up to 6 years. So, but let's say you're on, 5 years and you're right at that last day up to the 6th year, but you know you're going to be audited in 3 weeks. You throw away your documents? No, you keep those documents. So let's say you're on that 6th year and you know you're going to be audited in 3 months. You keep that documentation. So you have to keep that documentation up to the point where you're audited, and then you can get rid of those documents once you've been audited and you've had your feedback. But they need to be up to 6 years. So those include invoices, enrollment forms, eligibility forms, SSID numbers and data produced for the Utah School Readiness Board, USB or DWS, and then attendance records for all children in each classroom funded by the grant, and then documentation related to expenses billed to DWS, so receipts and things, and general ledgers. Thank you. Yep.
Is this okay if this is electronic, stored electronically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just as long as these things are, also secure and but electronically is fine, yeah. And just being sure that you have like a safe repository, like somewhere where if your laptop gets mirrored or whatever, you're gonna have that in a safe drive. So.
And we just want to make it quick because Debbie's not here.
Right.
So if like on the day before the 6 years is up, you get audited. Got it. She wanted to make sure that that's clear.
So it's actually happening.
I know, she's like 6 years or into the end of an audit, so.
Yes.
We get to do that. Yeah. It's just I know. I'm sorry, you went to IRS.
So like our enrollment forms and things like that are kept in their Q files. So they go to the school, so we need to keep a separate copy of those.
I think if your district has a system and you have access to that system to gather them, then that's fine.
Okay.
As long as you know that they're gonna be kept around for 6 years.
It might be helpful for you to have like an expansion of seats file in a repository, like somewhere where you know it's not gonna get deleted, like if you're.
Yeah, because I'm just
laptop
thinking in the
or
queue file, if they go to another school, then we may not have
Yeah.
that
If you
information,
leave
so.
the program, what if somebody else comes in and you
You
get
need to have
audited?
access to it, so.
And putting it in a file somewhere else, it's gonna be, when you are audited,
Yeah, you're gonna have to go to
you're gonna have to
school.
find these files, and that is gonna be a huge task for you. So I would keep it, everything that you have in a safe kind of file and keep it somewhere else too. So just for reporting, again, we have ECAS 3 goals based on the report: student attendance, chronic absenteeism. I should have changed that. I apologize. I changed it in the other slide. But this is defined as 10%, so or more, 10% or more. So that includes even if it's an excused absence, if the child has been suspended, if the child is just sick, 10% or more of chronic absenteeism.
And I'll just bump in here real fast. So as a state organization, we get to attend SCAS. Don't ask me what it stands for, I can't remember. But pretty much what it is we go and meet with like every other like state preschool specialist 3 times a year, which is a really cool opportunity. And as part of that, we had someone come from the organization Attendance Works, and she talked about absenteeism in preschool. And I think we can be a little bit more relaxed, and the parents are a little bit more relaxed. Like they're 3, they're 4, they're fine. Like, or, you know, and we don't want them coming because if they're sick, because they don't know how to keep the germs to themselves, and we don't want our other kids sick. But, you know, like we really do need to start being better at teaching parents, like, please avoid taking vacations during preschool. If they can't be here, they need to be here, as well as that really affects our data. So again, if I have I don't think we're gathering it yet. I'm in the process of talking with John of like getting that to be part of our data collection. Because let's say I have someone in Jordan that we test and they're in a high quality program, but they've only come like 15 times that year. And we test their data and they have low outcomes, that's gonna skew the data. So I would just encourage you, as we're like, I think all of you are keeping attendance, but really start having those conversations with parents about absenteeism and that it's important that they're there even though they're 3 and 4.
So maybe I'm not understanding you right. When you said 10%, we only meet 3 days a week. So that's in a month, it could be like 12 times. So are you saying even if they're gone twice, that would be chronically absent? Twice out of 12?
You're asking a lot.
Yeah. Because we have lots of kids with at least 2 absences in a month.
And I mean, that's the hard thing. I understand it's preschool and I understand they get sick a lot and things happen. But I don't think it hurts to have the conversation with parents of like, if they can't be here, or schedule doctor appointments at other times, like it's
You're not
important.
talking like to kick them out.
No.
No.
We want them there if they come one time during the year. Not at all. We're just saying that you're gonna report if your kids are chronically absent.
So at one point, we actually did tell parents that because we had more interest than we had seats available. And so we did tell them if you're not attending on a consistent basis, then your seat will be given.
Program decision, and I think that like.
So we still have that option too, okay.
That's totally.
So, and then another piece of the reporting is the beginning and end of year, and that first report is due on Halloween. I'm sorry. So send it early so you can party on Halloween.
I need to hurry because I take from the classroom too, and there is no better time to be at a training or a meeting than late. So
There you go. I did it
have
for you.
work to do. I can tell her it's a gift.
And then that second end of year report is due on June 14th, 2020. And we will send them to you. We are gonna, our next few meetings, we meet twice a month. Our next few meetings are really to go over any of our monitoring tools, and then really focusing on those reports so that we can get them out to you and you know what to expect, so that we're not giving you 2 weeks to fill these things out. So, and then the mid-year again portfolio is January, February 2020. monthly invoicing, call-in meetings. We would, if you need this, we would like to schedule some type of, whether it's monthly or every other month, meetings with you just to see how everything is going, not to catch anybody out in any way, but just to really just see how you are and to see if you need any assistance, technical assistance. So we can work that out together to see, you know, what your needs are. So, and then optional professional developments with Samantha. We will be talking about that in just a moment. So I'm just going to finish up these expected outcomes and then we'll move on to Samantha. So again, expected outcomes is to set and meet ECHA's 3 goals and potentially maybe class goals, maintaining and increasing ECHA's 3 scores, addressing and meeting program gaps, sustaining the high quality program, be sure that you're submitting reports on time. We also know that there are going to be times when you have things come up. We know that you're very busy. Maybe you don't have the data when we have before the deadline that we have, and you're still analyzing that data. Just let us know. Just communicate with us. We're very open to extensions if that's what you need. This is not like us to say like everybody gets an extension, but really, you know, if you need it, just communicate with us and we will work with you, you know, so. And then submit your invoices monthly, and it says up here quarterly. I don't know why, because I thought I got rid of that, but it needs to be, they do need to be monthly. So I'll change that when I send out the orientation PowerPoint. But yeah, those invoices need to come in monthly. And then we'll go over that a little bit with Joe, and we'll go through an invoice with you. And those invoices should be in your packets. And then portfolios need to be complete. And then when emailing any of your invoices in, well, we'll talk a little bit about that later. But when you're emailing, because we're collaborating and CWS and USBE are required to collaborate through the bill, you ask private providers to also CC Jessica when you reach out to me, and then LEAs to CC me, if that's okay, just so that we can both be on the same page.
CC both of us.
Yes.
On the emails.
Yeah.
Don't just CC me. Don't just CC him. Both
Right.
of us.
So your primary email contact for the LEAs would be Jessica Smith, and then CC me, and then private providers, your primary would be me, and then CC
I just have to say it's a good thing.
It is
right, since we're required to.
And we were collaborating before the law told us to, but we'll continue to do so.
All right, the fun part is that's me. So you're lucky. So this is just the definition of coaching from NAUIC and NACRA. So coaching is relationship-based process led by an expert with specialized and adult learning knowledge and skills who often serves in a different professional role than the recipient. Coaching is designed to build capacity for specific professional dispositions, skills, and behaviors, and is focused on goal setting and achievement for an individual or a group. So next slide, I do have, if you want the link to that document, I have it if you need it. So why coaching? So coaching, we're really focusing on coaching throughout the state. And so because coaching does build capacity for change, and it helps with behavior and practice changes. And we're really focusing on that long-term sustainable change. So we don't want you to just make changes while we're coming to visit you. We want you to make changes forever. So all those beautiful preschool students can have high quality preschool from now until forever. And so I have been working with the Becoming Quality. Last year was my first year with the Becoming Quality, well, it was HQSR, coaches. And we meet monthly in person, and then we did a professional development monthly. And so this year we're adding an option for expansion. So if your coaches would like to meet, do a monthly call with me, I am open to that. I know Brenda, I worked with Brenda last year. So some of my coaches, some of your coaches I've worked with before. So they are they have the option to have continue to have monthly coaching calls with me and attend our professional development, which I think they all seem to enjoy, and was beneficial for us. So if your coaches are interested in that, I might have to reach out to you if I don't have their information, and then you can just forward my information to them and I can contact them. And then we just have a little slide on what your coach should be doing. So just a little bit of information for the different types of coaching and the different elements of coaching. So classroom observations, one-on-one debriefing and feedback, which is essential to coaching. So I know most of you are probably doing this with your coaches. If you have coaches, the privates, it's a little bit harder to get that one-on-one time with your teachers and your coaches, but it is super important for them to help make those changes in the classroom. And my phone went to sleep. And then just goal setting, which is the purpose of, you know, making those goals and achieving those goals and continuing to make those changes. And then they should and can also be doing group professional development outside of your staff meeting, which is a requirement of the bill to do some professional development. So just the one last thing about coaching is it's really hard to be both the supervisor and the coach. So we really want to avoid having your coaches be doing those supervisory roles, because it just muddies the water and kind of helps or prevents that good relationship building that we want the coaches to be doing in the classroom with the teachers. Does anybody have any questions about coaching or coaching with me?
So we have a coach, we're not licensed, is that an issue? Like, could they participate in your professional development?
Of course, it's in Salt Lake, so I don't know how, you know, some of you are kind of far away, but they're welcome to come. I have my North San Pete coach and a coach from Logan that came last year, and they thought it was valuable enough to drive, so.
And I think that we could offer, for those that are in rural areas and live further away, we could do.
Yeah, I do have a go-to, I have go-to meeting capabilities. So if that's something they were also interested in, they couldn't come every month, we could do go-to meeting. And we have done that in the past. We do want to tell your coaches if they're going to commit, we want them to continue to come throughout the year, just because it's really hard to build that group cohesion and trust if we have coaches coming and going. That being said, we all understand things happen. I'm not mandating, you know, with blood that they come every month, but we really just want you to commit to that if you're gonna, if you express the interest.
How does this tie into the grant? I'm sorry, I missed that part. Like, what are the requirements as far as?
So there's not a requirement, so
It's not required.
It's an option.
Yeah.
Okay.
Samantha works, it's required in the Becoming Quality grant, high quality grant. And so with Samantha doing those professional developments, because now these two grants are actually combined within the same bill, we wanted to offer that to any of the coaches that might be interested in attending. So
I wrote my thesis on coaching. I have a lot of experience in quality improvement in programs. So Emma hired me for this position to just help with the quality improvement aspects. So just kind of problem solving the quality improvement issues or things that the coaches are experiencing with the teachers, like if they're having problem solving relationships and things like that with teachers.
And what I found, you know, I was a coach too, and what I found was like it was really, actually I went to the Granite School District coaching training. Nan actually did my training. Thanks, Nan.
Yeah.
So another shout out. So but the one thing that I've noticed over the years of kind of coaching is that there's not as much support, that there's the support there for the teachers. They have the coach, the internal coach, and sometimes even an external coach. But then, you know, I often think, well, what support do coaches have? And so it's this place that they can come to for professional development and one-on-ones with Samantha, where they can really talk about and problem solve. And we know that you're at quality, so you probably have amazing coaches. But even with being at quality and having amazing coaches, it's a great way to be able to kind of maintain that quality and provide that support there for your coaches to be able to kind of talk back with you. And they have other coaches there that they can chat with and converse with and problem solve with. And it's just a nice support system for them too, so. Just a resource, not a.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Excited? All right, so with the contract monitoring, so the primary role of the program specialist, which would be Emma does both grants and for DWS. But so your program specialist needs to come to do monitoring. And we've talked to you a lot about that'll be like probably January, February. But we do the on-site visits and we love to be in the classrooms because we all love the tiny humans. And we miss them tremendously. So, but it also allows us time to come and review those portfolios, look at the documentation you have, make sure you have your code of conduct, your disclosure statements, those kind of information. And so just expect that there will be an on-site monitoring. And then Emma was talking about, you have the capability, we'll be doing emails and we are available for phone calls anytime you guys need clarification. Know what we're here, she calls it technical assistance, we call it support. It's the same thing, right? We mean the same thing, but just program language is a little bit different. We're really here to help you. We want you to be successful in your programs. And so anything that we can do, let us know. It's also ensuring that the grant funds are being spent appropriately and that we're tracking the staff training and verification. So that those that say that they do have, like teachers are working towards their CDA, they have 1 year to get it. It's been 3 years and they're still hired. Those kind of things could be a problem. So if you guys have any questions, here's Emma's contact information as well as Jessica's information.
Can I ask you about the code of conduct? Was that something, I know we did it under our previous grant. Has it changed?
The paperwork has not changed, but the grant has changed. And since the grant has changed, you will need to do it again this year. All right.
Is there an updated copy?
You'll get that in the orientation packet as well.
That big orientation, you guys, by the time the orientation package comes, you guys are gonna be going, oh my God.
Now we have Joe Edmond from the Department of Workforce Services, and he's going to be talking about budgets and invoicing and stuff, so that you can get your money and be happy. Be happy.
So you will be getting a copy of your electronic invoice. It'll be sent out with your packet, and it will be pre-populated with what your budget for your organization. All of you, one component that you all will have on your budget is the cost for the budget. Some of you will also have some additional expenses that were those budgets are pretty much set in stone, but if you discover that there is going to be, you need to get pre-approval from that before you those additional expenses, we only reimburse the program expenses. Request if you're going to make any changes.
Yes. So we'll send that to you with the orientation package too, so that you have that on hand, so that if there is anything kind of in additional costs, you would make that adjustment and send it back. But I'll make sure.
So this is what the main part of the invoice looks like. And there's several tabs. It's an Excel document. There will be several tabs. This is the main tab. There's a part where you put your organizational name, information like that. And then the second section is where you will fill out how many eligible for that month. And so these are, you shouldn't have any duplicate numbers here. It's asking for the eligible kids are economically disadvantaged with one risk factor, at least one risk factor, if they're English learners or if both those criteria fit, so. The invoice is, there's formulas set up to take all your eligible kids, multiply by your monthly cost per seat, and that will populate line one of your, which tells us how much to pay. And there's another tab, the student invoice information.
Can I just add something to this if that's all right? So you would put your numbers here like I did, and it will give you a total here on cell B20. And then your cost per child, that will be, so we have that information, so we're going to be filling those out for you and sending it. It's going to be catered to your program. So you will have your approved budget, your cost per child, and then any additional costs that you have. Your current reimbursement will go here, and then it will tell you your remaining balance over here. So the way to get your remaining balance is each month. So the first month that you invoice, you're going to copy and paste this over to here. So that will give you the remaining balance. The second time that you invoice, on month 2, you're going to add your new current reimbursement amount here in this yellow section, and then you will actually have to be doing the math each month, and that will give you your remaining balance. And so you just realize that every time you send in an expenditure, you're adding to that. So one thing that you might want to do is just copy that cell, copy this tab here, and just copy it for the months that you're going to be reimbursing. So some of you will be reimbursing for 9 months, some will be 10 or 12 months. So you could just copy that along and label it July, August, September, October, so that you then in the same Excel spreadsheet have the documentation of how much you spend each month, and you're adding that as you go in section G25 through to 28. And it will total up here for you, but it will help you with the remaining balance, and it will tell you right here your invoice amount. So we wanted to just show that to you so that you have an idea of what the expectations are. There is a little bit of work on your end to be doing that math of how much you're spending each month.
But it's not 100% documentation.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
Oh, be yelled at there.
Can I just ask for clarification on the letter that we were sent about the revised numbers? Thanks. Just for fiscal year 2020.
So what's your question?
I guess, so will the numbers be different than what we were actually awarded just by the 6%?
So we sent you a letter with the cost per child and the amount of kids. So I sent that to everyone. Did you have it? Did you get it? Okay. So that's the number. The letter that we sent after that was really just, we're not changing anything else.
Okay.
Yes, that may have been confusing, but the letter we sent after that was due to the fact that, we just wanted to give an explanation as to the fact that this, we didn't just kind of make this up and make this quick decision. As you know, it's late in the year. It took us a long time to really go back to the drawing board and try to figure out the best way for budgeting.
So our award letter is the actual amount that we will.
Yes. Yeah, it will not be changing. And I'm sorry you've had to live with that for this amount of time. Reach out to me if you have this.
Yeah, no, so your award's not changing, but I believe Emma sent out a letter that said if you need to change your proposal. So pretty much in your application, you said, we're gonna accomplish this. We didn't give you all that money. So if you needed to adjust, like, okay, this is what we can do with that amount of money, that's what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you guys needed to make changes, you could submit a proposal, like, okay, now that we know what we're getting, this is what we can do reasonably.
Okay.
So you made a statement that really pricked my ears. You said no documentation. What does that mean?
Hey.
Because I want you to know what it takes me. I just want to know the level of effort that I put into my my invoice. When you said no documentation, I just went on vacation.
There's some. What I'm referring to is for HQSRE, the LEAs, like, we were given the money from DWS, and then before I got here, DWS wasn't happy with how we were auditing things, so they required 100% documentation. So just imagine how much LEAs spend. And so I have been asking them for the last 2 years for every receipt of everything they spent, and I have to be super specific. There are 3 gigantic banker boxes in this room behind here that I will be coming back and burning in that 6-year time if I'm not still here. And there's not all of us have really suffered through this. So moving forward, we really wanted to try to get to that cost per child so that every month they're not having to submit every receipt. However, if you're doing those additional purchases, those additional expenses for opening a new classroom and you're buying things, those you need to provide receipts for.
So for example, I was reading it earlier in here, it talks about invoicing with pay stubs. So when we're submitting the budget and the cost per child, most of my cost will be salary, right, reimbursement?
Yeah.
So do I need to still turn in my pay
So
stub?
let's get to that. No, for the cost per child, you don't need to turn in your expense information in. What you do need to turn in, maybe you need to go let's go to the student invoice.
Okay.
Sorry, go back to the invoice just.
I know you have a question, so soon as we get.
Well, it's on this page,
Okay.
not the
So-
invoicing page, the page we were on.
Okay.
I guess you could see, but under the category 3 program expenses, it will be tailored to your budget, but the item number 1 is the cost per child. That's based on the number of your eligible kids for that month and your per month seat. Additional budget built into your grant, it will show up under that. There will be a tab for student invoice information. This is where you would put enrollment information for that month. So those numbers should tie to what you put on the cover page and then cost per, how much we're giving you for the cost per child.
So then question, so there's an SSID number here. Is that still considered like?
Yeah, so every
PPI?
month, so every month you're gonna have to securely send DWS an enrollment list of your eligible students only.
And we have a Move It system, so you can send it through our Move
Yes.
It.
So my invoice is not gonna be sent directly to you now, it's gonna be going through,
No, 'cause they have Move It as well.
We have Move It as well, we do here.
Okay, so there's,
I know.
it's like a
It's like
program.
so PII is
To
in
get
here, right? The
SSID.
SSID number,
Yes,
right?
to get SSIDs one time a year, you're gonna contact
So, yeah,
John
yeah, I
and get the
get
SSIDs.
I have that.
Every month, you're gonna send them the list of enrollment documentation with your eligible students. Because if you just said, we have 50 eligible students, and we're like, okie dokie, here's your money. We need documentation that that number's real.
Right.
So that's why we collect the student details every month. Then as you lose, and if kids like, if they leave and are no longer enrolled, you can enroll another eligible student to fill that seat. So that's gonna fluctuate here and there. But you'll probably, the majority of that list will stay the same each time, you'll just have to make the adjustment. Yes. So this is, for the LEAs, this is kind of similar to what you sent me the beginning before I started processing your reimbursements, where I had to have the 2 consecutive months. We're kind of doing it like on a monthly basis now.
So we don't need the student names, we just need the SSID number, the school, and then the category of what they fall into, and then that would be sent to our Move It.
It's like an X under C, D, or E
Yeah.
instead of their name.
Yeah.
Put like an X.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine. And you would send that through to our Move It. You could send all of it through our Move It. On here, we have the school readiness, but if we're sending SSID numbers, so we were just trying to confirm through USBE whether providers can send SSID numbers, even though it's not attached to kids' names via email, and we cannot. So that information needs to be sent via Move It. So we will also get you that Move It information too, where you can send that information securely. So you're going to be sending to be able to retrieve your SSID numbers, USBE, to be able to retrieve funds, Department of Workforce Services.
And then if the case arises where we have an enrollment that came in and came out like right before the invoice, can we put pending for the SSID number and then populate it when the next month when that student's, when we get the SSID, or how long is the turnaround? May I ask how long is the turnaround to get an SSID?
Overnight. Right, overnight. Well, I don't know what the
I don't know because I've never received one back, so I don't know what the turnaround time is.
And I've never created one, so I don't know. So plus, John.
It's pretty quick. It's pretty quick. Once you give them the list, they're really, really quick at getting back to you.
I have a question about English learners, and that's generated from the risk assessment. Many of my parents have the attitude, isn't every child an English learner?
So we provided that as what did I call it?
Assisted document.
Resource. Yes, the resource. And so it had the definition of an English learner on that. So that's what you need to refer your parents to. I sent it. It had the definition of an English learner on it, and then it had the income.
The parents don't read it. They're just like, oh yeah, my kid speaks English. We've spoken English.
So that's why you guys are there, to clarify and be like, no, that child, I'm pretty sure speaks English.
Just got a question on that too. So can we enroll English learners that are not economically disadvantaged? Didn't realize that.
Okay, so there's two categories. Yeah. If you read the bill, they have to be either economically disadvantaged and have a risk factor, or only an English learner. But some of them are gonna be all three. So that's when you would put them in the both column.
Okay. So if they're an English learner, they do not have to qualify for the
economic.
Yeah, I know, Lorraine, you've had a question for a long time, so.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
it goes to the other page, but I have another question on this page too, because over there it says total enrollment. My first question on the front side, so if you said that our number is 50 or whatever the number is of that's how many seats we have. So do I only put on that front page, do I only put up to 50 on there? And then same thing with here, you're asking for total enrollment and highlight eligible students. So am I putting all of my kids in my whole program and just highlighting those eligible students?
Good question though, but no, just your eligible students. So I should just, add in here.
So I don't need to because I'm only putting eligible students in there. I don't need to highlight them blue because.
Right. Yeah, we just need the documentation. And then what we would do is we would take this list to you when we do monitoring and pull a couple kids and say, where's it for?
So I'm disregarding the highlight blue. Just highlight eligible students in blue.
Yeah, you could, that's carried over from, I gave them my document to reference.
Sorry about that. Thanks for.
And then back on the other page, am I only doing up to that number that you say that I can have seats?
Yeah.
Once I hit my, like everybody else does still too, but I only put in that number.
Yeah, and if you have kids drop, you can add in students. I think, for purposes of dropping, you can, just let us know, just send an email if kids have dropped and just say a new student's going to be entered in, but that will be documented within or every monthly anyway.
Just
so
highlight the new students and put it up. That's
yeah.
Well,
there's questions on this page. I saw these both.
Go Shelley.
That's what I saw.
Is there an attendance requirement, like the IGP, they had to attend at least one day per month?
No.
Oh.
Submitting what the enrollment is for that month, so I would think that.
So there's no other requirement other than one day they have to attend to be counted and reimbursed for?
No, we don't have a day. We don't have.
I feel like majority of your kids are gonna come. And I feel like that's a lot of work to just go through and comb through who didn't come. I feel like it's not that big of a deal to not have to check attendance. Like if they're enrolled,
Well, I mean, it's definitely something we're gonna have to take that direction, but I know with like you said, IGP, they had to be there at least once for the month. Right, yeah. So I would assume, just build them and we'll get you the answer.
Here,
If we have students drop and we run out of reserve students that we haven't been counting, where we haven't done the beginning of the year testing, are we still able to use those kids as
Yes.
eligible kids?
yes. So they're still eligible, they still need services, right? We're not gonna be like, oh, you missed the peep entry, you don't get any benefit from high school. You just won't include them in your peep entry data. That's something we should have mentioned on the peep as well, is that if they come in late and you want to give them the peep entry just so that you have the data, you're more than welcome to do that. But if they've missed the window, you're not gonna be submitting the data and the system shouldn't allow you to submit the data. But you would submit them in the peep exit, even though you didn't give them a peep entry. Really, because like, let's say they missed the peep entry, but you give the peep exit, we can still see that summer slide and the comparison between the peep exit and their peep entry would still be valuable information, so they'll still get the peep exit. But the peep has nothing determining on if they're coming for services.
Just to clarify, you said that this on the next page, we're reporting only eligible children, but when we're reporting our peak, it's both, correct?
I want them all, yes. Every kid that's receiving the high quality treatment, high quality classroom is included.
Okay.
Park City?
Did you guys still have a question?
It was answered, thanks.
Okay, perfect.
Joe, do we have anything more to?
Yeah, we've got one more
Oh,
one more
This
question.
may be a dumb question, I'm sorry, because this is a dumb question, but under category 3 where it says PEEP administration, I don't foresee additional costs on PEEP.
Because you guys are local, so that was for if someone needs to like send someone into a training or something like that. A couple districts that are farther out asked for some funding, just a little bit of funding to get people into trainings. So you would know if you had that.
So with the cost per child, this is the only documentation that we need. For those with additional expenses, additional budget, there is a tab where you will record your receipts. Information where your expenses are coming from, and for this portion, we would need documentation submitted. The way it's set up is there's a tab to put the detailed receipts, what you're buying, what category they fall into. You can roll them up into the invoice report, which puts those expenses in the same categories that are on your budget. Where you'd also put your payroll, what your wage.
The additional expenses, not the cost per child.
Correct. Because the cost per child came from your historical costs, which Joe will talk about in just a second about the audit that he'll be doing it for each provider. So
in addition to the invoice, there will be an invoice checklist that's included with your packet. As soon as just walk you through how to fill it out and make sure you get the invoice process is that authorized budget will be reimbursed. This is for the template that we provide you and submit it. For the June invoice, it does need to be submitted by July. For our close out. We're gonna have you submit everything to this email address, but we're going to do through the movements. About documentation. Your cost per child is based on historical information and having to validate all of your receipts. For your cost per child. Planning on coming out in conjunction with the program here. Look at that historical information that was provided with some of that and how
You already have that. We've been submitting 100% documentation, so.
Yeah, that's good. Ish. So I guess they we'll talk some more. So if they, because I have lots of records, so if they need to come see that, they might. But if that's insufficient, they might come by and have just see the district system or see.
We're actually going to go out to the site. So that was actually part of the deal of doing a cost per child and not having to do all that reimbursement. And I know that you're sending documentation, but the our finance team would come out with Jessica and me to the site to be able to just do some verifications. It's not going to be.
It's
really just a verification, correct?
Yeah, and also to look at your, how your system is, to better understand how you're getting those historical costs, because they're all different from that. How those costs come together, so we'd just like a better idea, rather than
It'll be like just a short sit down with you and your BA.
I feel like we would need some understanding of what you'll be looking for so that we can prepare for that.
Orientation packet.
So just to let heads up, for us though, it would be if you came out, you wouldn't see me because we have a central admin where I sit. And so none of those fiscal records would be on the site. They would be with
Well, we'll
me.
just
we'll coordinate.
So yeah, coordinate, so yeah.
I'm just gonna show up.
Okay, because you'll be like, where's the fiscal department? No, he's up in Salt Lake.
We're going to have an unannounced visit. We'll set it up with you and we'll let you know kind of, Joe, you have a kind of obviously a deeper understanding of what you're looking for. And so we'll let you
And
know.
we'll let you know ahead of time, if we needed. Ready ahead of time and prepared.
No, I've got auditors in my office right now, so I'm already used to it. Independent auditors. They're for a normal audit, not like. Like her pins drop.
Why are we even with this guy? We'll audit you next week.
Just like, no, I'll see you on Monday.
We'll be there today at 5:30.
So on that invoice, every month we put receipts.
So everything like your snacks, everything you've been asking for reimbursements, that all should now be included in that cost per child amount. So then you just get that and we verify it with your enrollment documentation and you spend it how you need to. And we will say that we're trying to work towards we'll see how this goes with another work group, is as we went through these, we tried to, and we were doing the budget cuts, we tried to come to a cost per child, per how long you served a kid per week. We don't know if that's the best category, but ideally in the next couple of years, it would be we just have a flat rate for everybody, that would meet your needs. And so that then there wouldn't need to be a whole lot of documentation, more how elementary school works is you just tell us how many kids you got and we give you the amount of money and you spend it how you need to. We're trying to move that way. So that'll also be happening this year is the discussion, and we'll learn a lot from the monitoring of, what things we need to take into account to make sure that we get to that accurate cost per child.
Okay, we know that we're we're at 3:30. We have some terms and conditions that we need to go through from Taylor, and then we're gonna pull up the grammar report just before the end, and then
I'll go through these really quick, I promise. So, just to refresh, I said at the beginning on the cover page, you have these list of attachments. I'll go through briefly the terms and conditions. Emma and Jessica and Jamie already went through the performance requirements. The background check requirement, just make sure you're in compliance with the child care licensing for that. The code of conduct attachment, you will need to do a new one for this grant because it's a brand new contract. Make sure the code of conduct is basically protecting the students from neglect or abuse or those things. You want to make sure all your volunteers and employees read it and sign it, and you keep a copy of that in their employee file because that will be monitored when we go on site. The non-disclosure agreement is along the same lines. Every employee or volunteer that has interaction with students needs to read this. This is just saying, well, this is if they have access to student data. I would assume most of them. I don't know. If they have access to the student data, they need to read this and sign it. And this is just saying that they'll agree to only use the student data for purposes outlined in the agreement and not for any other reason. Joe covered the budget. The data sharing is just what we're going to, did you have a question?
Yeah. So you said volunteers. So clarify that again. The volunteers need, they don't have access to data. They don't have
access to the data. The non-disclosures for data, the code of conducts with interaction. Students.
Interaction outside of like being with a teacher, like.
They have lots of parent volunteers.
And they're interacting with students.
Right, so like our district.
Under supervision.
Are under supervision, they're never alone with, like our district policy is that if you have a volunteer, that you have to do full background check if they have time with the student without the teacher there, but within the classroom, under the teacher purview, never leaving the teacher's sight line, then it's like, so do you have a clarification there?
Yeah, I'll double check with our legal team, but I'm pretty sure they would need to sign this.
We haven't done code of conduct for volunteers before.
Okay, I'll check with them and get back to you.
What about substitutes?
Yes. Has that not been done before? I would assume they would have to.
We'll keep talking. We'll check on that.
I would, if they have to do the background check, I would assume they would need to. But we'll clarify. Okay, well, the last two attachments, it was the data sharing, and that's just outlining the data we're expecting you guys to collect and how that will be transferred.
I'm sorry, I just thought about this. With the code of conduct, then for us, it would be the same thing, because all our teachers and everybody that comes into our center has the background check. So maybe something, and we still have our teachers sign the code of conduct.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about this. We'll come back.
All right, grant T's and C's. I'm not going to cover all of them. There are roughly 40 terms in the attachment. I'm just going to talk about a few of the most common ones that come up. And you guys are expected to be familiar with all of the terms in the contract. So just keep that in mind. The first one is conflict of interest. So you're saying in this that none of your owners, directors, or employees of your organization are also employees of DWS, nor are they related to an employee at DWS. Also, if you have any competing interests or loyalties that could be a potential conflict of interest, you need to let us know, and we can go through an approval process with our legal department. Any questions on that? Related parties. So if you guys are using grant funds in your organization, if like the director is using grant funds to pay someone related to them, we have a list of relation like father, mother, husband, wife, son. There's a whole list. If grant funds are being used for that, it needs to go through an approval process before any of that fund can be approved, or any of those payments can be approved. So we have a form, it's right here. make sure you get that filled out for this grant. If you've done it before for another grant, it needs to be done again. It needs to be done per contract. So make sure you get that filled out in advance. Any questions on related parties?
For a school district who can a program, it would be for family relationships.
I think you define it here.
It's the page before that.
Oh, yeah. Grantee is defined as owners, partners, directors, and officers of your organization.
For a school district, that too?
So it'd be like probably the superintendent. Clarification. Director.
He said yes.
What? No. So this would be like if the superintendent or executive at the school was paying their son who's with grant funds that works there. That makes sense. It does happen in childcare so we just want to be aware of it and make sure that we're getting proper approval for it. But to get clarification on owners, directors, partners, and officers, I'll ask legal to give us an official definition for it for the school districts. Yeah.
As it's kind of hard with this collaboration, like we continue to stumble upon these things, like DWS has worked with mostly childcare, so that's what this is meant for. So as we stumble upon these things, we'll get them resolved, so. Yeah. Thanks for helping us identify them.
All right, human subject research. So you guys can't use, this is saying that grant funds cannot be used to conduct human subject research. See, an example of this would be like giving half of your class the services from the grant and the other half not, and then seeing which one ended up being better off. We need to make sure we're treating everyone the same. But doing program reporting and evaluation are not considered human subject research, so we're okay with that. Okay. Monitoring. We already kind of talked about monitoring, but the terms are just saying that DWS and USVE, we have the right to do monitoring. This can be announced or unannounced, but it'll always be during office hours. And we kind of outlined what the monitoring would look like, so we don't need to talk about that. Obviously, we want everyone to be successful in their grants, and we want everyone to be better off from it. But if for any reason we do need to terminate the grant, there's different reasons. If there's a loss of funding, or if an organization is not meeting the terms outlined in the contract, there's different reasons or ways that we can terminate for cause, no cause, immediate, and there's different days of notices that we're required to give you, whether it's in writing and et cetera. So that's all outlined in the terms and conditions. Compliance with general applicable and state and federal laws. I'm just saying you guys are agreeing that you're going to maintain a drug-free workplace, free of discrimination, also abide by the equal opportunity. There's a poster for that, and you guys, the grant requires you to have that equal opportunity poster posted in your organization. So if you need a copy of that, let Emma or Jessica know. We can get that for you. We talked about code of conduct and the grievance procedure. You guys need to make sure you have a grievance procedure where customers can report a grievance if they have one. Protection and use of client records. Along the same lines of the non-disclosure, this is saying you guys agree that you will only use the student data for reasons identified in the contract and for that purpose only. Records administration, this is saying you guys will maintain all of the records for this grant for at least 6 years. If at the end of that 6-year period there's an audit going on, you're required to keep it throughout the duration of the audit. So 6 years or however long that audit is going on. Required insurance. So I think we've already collected all of this for everyone, but if you're an LEA, you're covered under state risk. If you're a private provider, you are required to maintain insurance throughout the grant period. We should have already collected this. We'll just collect it once at the beginning of the contract. But you are required to maintain it throughout the whole period. Then Joe's gonna talk about billings and payments.
So your invoices, they are monthly invoices and they're due 30 days after the end of the month. And we try really hard to get a check sent out within the last corrected invoice that is sent to us. The contract calls for your June invoice to be turned in no later than July. Office of Child Care really pushes to get it turned in. Just because they have to review holdings, DWS can withhold payment. Missing, we would notify you what needs to be done.
And we're done. One last thing I wanted to pull up. This was just for your guys' reference for the grandma request. So this is the website, and I can send this to Emma, the link for you guys to look at, but this is the web page you would go to submit a grandma request. It kind of explains the timeline, that they need at least 10 days to respond. If you'll scroll down a little bit, Emma, you can submit a request by email or fax or mail. There is a form that you can use to fill it out, but the form's not required. So if you guys just want to shoot an email and say, I would like my grant review, whatever, and send it to that email. The email's right here. It's the info.disclosure@utah.gov. And give them 10 days to respond. So that's kind of the or anything with the T's and C's or attachments.
Last question. So I promise it's my last question.
I'm sure.
I always say, when I say it's my last, it's my last. So invoices you said are due 30 days post. So right now we're almost at the end of August. We're in the mid-August. For me, it's almost at the end. We're in mid-August, and we still haven't got. We got to get SSIDs for the children that were enrolled in July. How is August and July working in terms of reimbursements?
August and September.
So when's your kids,
No,
are
that's
already in
retroactive to
school, right?
July.
We have kids in
Yeah.
school in July.
So, you would invoice, once we get that invoice out to you, we get that contract, you just back invoice for those. So you would invoice for July, invoice for August, and then if you have additional costs, you would add that to it too, and we will get you reimbursed.
So just as quickly as
So you're
possible.
looking for the first invoice the first week of September?
You won't be able to invoice until the contract's executed.
Correct. That's the other thing.
Have them to you.
So
But yeah, invoice back. I mean, I can send you this invoice and you kind of have it, you can fill it out already and have it all ready to go. And once your contract is signed and sent back.
Now then, for Jonathan, like I can send right now for those children that were in July that we had enrolled.
Yeah.
I can send Jonathan now SSIDs and have that going starting now, right?
Yeah.
Hey, any other questions?
We have questions just for you.
All right, I'll be around. In the back, we have the PEEP assessment. I think we were able to do everybody's ideal numbers, which is exciting. So make sure you grab both the TAMs and the student materials. Our greatest Brian has them all over there, so talk to him and make sure you find yours. Thanks so much for coming. Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
That's right.